Hi, so 41 game 4 is a circle game. It's a circle game with an even number of players. And so when I encounter that, I make an asterisk. So in this case, we have 8 people. So I do that. Oh, sorry about that. And then we have our circle. So Fiona sits directly across from George. Doesn't matter where we put those guys, just as long as they're on opposite sides of the circle. Harriet sits immediately next to neither Fiona nor Carl, so we can't have H here next to Fiona, but we also can't have H next to Carl. Ingrid sits immediately next to and immediately clockwise from Olivia. So we have Olivia and then we have Ingrid clockwise from Olivia. If Olivia is here, Ingrid would be the next space, right? So it just kind of depends where along the circle we're putting them, but we're always going to put I going in a clockwise direction, right? Okay. Great. So in terms of our options for where we put Olivia and Ingrid, I mean, if you wanted to write out 4 different scenarios for that, you could. It's a bit much, especially because it is just a more tedious diagram to draw, like redrawing that asterisk and that circle a bunch of times. So I wouldn't do that. What I would do though is I would make sure that you have a pencil and an eraser and you make use of that for a game like this. Always good to have handy when you don't want to be redrawing your diagram over and over and over. So this way you can, add Olivia and Ingrid and then erase when you want to move on to the next question. All right, so which one of the following could be the order in which the 4 people are seated with no one else seated between them, counting clockwise around the table? So we're going clockwise, so that means we should have Olivia and then Ingrid. So D is out. Just starting with whatever rule I want to start with. So I should have OI, and so yeah, D is out. F and G need to have 3 players in between them, so A is out, and also B is out for that, because what we're seeing here are just 4 out of the 8 people, and whichever 4 you choose, we need to see either F or G in that list, and B has neither of them, so that's going to be a problem. That kind of implies that in the other 4, you're going to see both F and G, and then they're not going to be able to be separated by exactly 3 players because you don't have enough players left to separate them. And then C and E are left over. What are we looking at? Oh yeah, Harriet can't be next, so we can't have HF or HK, and E breaks that rule. So C, we have, let's give this a go. So we would have Ingrid, Fiona, Peter, Manuel, okay. And then G is here. O would have to be before I, right? And then on either side of G, what do we have left over? H and K. And it doesn't matter which one goes where. So this gives us 2 acceptable solutions that we can, maybe it comes in handy, maybe not. It's a tough game, so they might not be very nice to us with that. 19. If H and O each sits immediately next to George. All right, so in this case, O can't sit on this side of George because I has to be the next one if we're moving clockwise. So O is going to be on this side of George, and what was it, H on the other side. I is going to have to be over here, and then we can't have K next to H. So K has to be either on this side of F or this side of F. Sorry, and M or P would have to be here, and then the other one would be next to F. So still some unknowns. They're then asking us, after we've applied this question-specific condition, to see which one of the following could be the two people, each of whom sits immediately next to Peter. So Peter could occupy this spot, where we would have F and I next to it. Peter could occupy this spot where we would have F and M is an option, or P could be here with H and K or M. So H and K is an option. Yeah, D. D would be the correct answer for 19. Question 20. Oh, and I wasn't even supposed to do those ones. 20, 21, and 23. Okay, if George doesn't sit immediately next to Harriet. All right, so George and Harriet don't sit immediately next to each other. So I can kind of already see where this is going, but let's try. Okay, so that means that H is going to be on this side or this side. So if H is here, then we're not going to have room in either of these spots to have O or I, because they have to be next to each other. So we would have O, I here, or O, I here. Same if H is here, we'd have to have O, I, or O, I. And then the other players available, so let's say, yeah, this one might be worth drawing like one other potential diagram and then using pencil. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to start with drawing what happens if we put H on this side. But what's the rest of the question? Let's see. Oh, we're looking at the people who could sit immediately next to Manuel, and okay, so all right, so we've got H there. H can't be next to K, right? It's not going to be able to be next to O or I, so it's going to be next to M and P. We just don't know what order. So which one's going to be next to M? Well, M's going to definitely need to be next to H, and then it's going to need to be next to either F or G. So FH or GH would be the ones next to M for sure. So even if we had H on this side, we would still have to have M and P on either side of H, and we would still have whichever one M is on, it's going to be next to H, and then either F or G. So FHA is the correct answer for question 20. All right. Erasing all of this, so we'll go back to our original conditions. Question 21, if Manuel sits immediately next to Olivia. Okay, so it's going to be on this side. Okay, so we've got 3 in a row, so that could be M-O-I. Ooh, and then we have H, K, and P left over, but H and K can't be beside each other, so H, K, P. So that's one option. Which one of the following people must sit immediately next to Fiona? I think it's going to have to be K. So in this case, we see that I and K are on either side, so that would eliminate everything except B and C. So we get it down to B or C. Now, why do I say K? Because we could have M-O-I on this side, and then what would we have on the other side? Well, we still wouldn't be able to have H next to F. We still wouldn't be able to have H next to K, so we'd have to split them up, put P between them, and we would still have to have F next to K. but M would be next to F on the other side rather than I. So the thing that they have in common, the must be true part, is that K has to be next to Fiona. So C is the correct answer. Question 23. If Carl sits directly across from Ingrid. Okay, so Carl directly across from Ingrid. We have an example of that here. So I'm just gonna show that as an option. Each of the following people could sit immediately next to Olivia except. So M and I could sit immediately next to Olivia. So D is allowed. So we can eliminate that. We're looking for an exception. What else could we eliminate? So M and P are logically equivalent because they're both wild, so we can eliminate E. Now let's find another solution where we have I and K directly across from each other. So let's put I here, K here. We can't put H there, so H would be here. O could be next to F, I believe. What else is left over? So this is MP, PM. Yeah, that's fine. So we can eliminate A. All right, so routine B and C. So could we have G right next to O? Let's give that a try. Don't really see why not. I'm guessing that for some reason we can't have H there, but let's just try. So G, O, I. Then I has to be directly across from K. So H can't be here. Ooh, nope. Nope, this is not allowed. So there would be nowhere for H to go. So O cannot be next to G. So B is the correct answer. Yeah. Alrighty. So that's it for the questions that I was asked about. If you have any more, please let me know.